internet number resources review. It has been discussed recently, and it has been discussed for a long time, and all the discussions which good for the policies were taken into consideration. If you can see the problem statement, we are not going to repeat it. Many people had a view on it, and so that's very internet.
Just so that people who are here and have an understanding, don't assume that it's been talked about several times and you shouldn't talk about it. Please do. Thank you.
D'accord, il n'y a pas de souci.
It's my pleasure for the newcomers to understand the problem statement which we have seen at the level of Afrinic. There's an article which helps Afrinic to conduct a review of all resources which is in their disponibility for their members. I want to remind you that all the resources of Afrinic, they are not for sale. All the resources for Afrinic, they are for their communal fair. They are communal, they are not for selling. They are put in place for the sake of the needs of Afrinic. When those needs are no longer there, you can come back to Afrinic. You are not supposed to sell them. Thank you so much for your understanding, because it's very important so that you can understand about the problem statements. This policy helps the article which is in AIS to guide all the processes of all the reviews which is done at the members level. All these reviews are on base to ensure that all people, individuals, or on the base of the complaints which have been given to Afrinic, and Afrinic will take care after analysis of all these data before deciding if they can do or conduct a review. You can see how this proposal, this policy can be done and address the questions of the problems. It's very clear in our policy that it is the last record that all these resources can be removed, but not the most important. The things which is very important is to bring the member resources so that they can comply with the contract which we are having, which has been defined by RIC versus which is very important. Different changes which have been taken place when we went together in Tunisia, they are the following. They are the changes which were done by version 4 to version 6. I'm inviting to see the colors for version 6 and version 7. There are changes which were done in these policies. On section 13.4, we have on the basis of proposition of the members of the list, we have modified that section and made it more acceptable in relationship of what we had on that section before. Apparently, that section is the one which attracts many problems, and we have now to reinforce it. We capture all those resources. It's not going to be on the total of all resources of all. It's going to be for the part which we are not using. And we said in which conditions in which we can take it into consideration in case of fraud, or if the person is not disponible and the person has been contacted several times, or this person is no longer in good collaboration with all the requests which Afrinic has done, it's that in that condition that we can think of when we can go down do the recovering of resources. After some discussions on the list, some people did some proposals. If you can see at all the time when you receive proposals which are correct, those proposals which are going to encourage the advancement of that policy, we take care of it and we put it into consideration. Those which we do not take their considerations because they are not in line with our policies as Afrinic. Let those people not say that their policies are no longer interesting, but they are not in the same line with their politics and the philosophy of Afrinic. For the section 13.3.1, one person wanted to make it more clearer and in which condition those random are going to be done, that review. And we decided the review is going to concern the person, how can I say, the person who was not audited in the period of 24 months or 2 years. If you appear in that random and have been chosen and you were audited after some month, now we are going to reset again the choice of the random, and it's going to be of equal and equity. And the condition in which this recovery of resources are going to be done, all we talked about in the section 13.4. This recovery is going to look at the policies, the portion of addresses IP which are not in relation with IP, not all the integrity of all sources or the members. We did also some little changes on the section 13.5 first part, where we have added for precision this last part which I'm showing you, on the basis of the proposals which the members have given us from different steps on the mailing lists. As you are seeing, for this version, we did not receive any staff statements. There was no comment because all those we addressed in the first version in our policy proposal. Thank you so much.
So the floor is now open for questions, comments, contributions. You want the floor?
Oui, je peux lui laisser compléter. Merci, Marcus.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the policy has evolved from version 1 up to 8. All the comments, amendments, we've taken them into consideration. We are here not to say, I oppose. Is there a substantive point to you have to bring so that we improve upon it? Otherwise, I oppose. We know you always oppose. Thank you.
Okay, just a note of caution there. You took a similar stance in the last meeting where it seemed you wanted to compel people to contribute to the policy proposal. People do have a right to oppose it, And they do, yes, we do expect that there be substance, not just to say that you oppose the policy proposal or you support the policy proposal. There should be substance that would help us get to a point where we're either adopting something that we can all live with or we are discarding. So we shouldn't try to bully.
No, we are saying the same thing.
Nah, that's slightly different.
No, we are saying the same thing.
But okay, that's fine. Good that you agree with me. First comment, I will start from the far mic there. You have the floor.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Val Lewton, Juliana. Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation concerning the review policy. But I would like to have a clarity based on the difference between the RSA and the review policy, because I've gone through the both, but I don't still understand the basic difference between the two. Then I would like to comment by saying this policy will only lead to instability, whereby a member is found to have violated the rules according to the solution you proposed, whereby when you recover all those resources back from the person, it leads to instability in the community. Then I would like to say that Afrinic does not have the resources and the human capacity to carry out this review that has been proposed. Then I would like to suggest that this policy, the policy that I feel is required is that will block the black market rather than the review policy. Then the effect of this policy is not good for the community, because if you look at if you go through the RPD mailing list, half of the community do not support this. So I would like the co-chairs and Afrinic itself to consider the voice of the community towards this proposal. And I would like to end it by saying I do not support this review policy. Thank you.
Enter microphone, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Nasir Farouk from University of Elena, Nigeria. Thank you very much for this great proposal. Of course, it's indeed timely to look at our usage and improve also the usage of our resources. However, my main concern, just like the earlier speaker, I don't know how the protocol, the procedures of how Afrinic will be able to enforce this, just like to see the disparity between what we have and what we are proposing. Now, when we look at it, this is just centered towards effective usage of our resources. That is essentially what we are looking at. Now, why not creating more flexibility in order to prevent those who are actually the black marketers, in quotes? Since it's Afrinic, maybe most likely that we even know who are those black marketers. So now, if we now strengthen some of our policies, such as the one that was presented earlier on, the intra and inter rail policy, now that would, of course, minimize the process of going off black market. I'm not saying that we are just trying to legalize black markets, but in the sense that so many other arms of regulations, for example, the DSA, okay, where we try to enforce the usage of a spectrum by saying, oh, after 6 months, once you don't deploy, we'll revoke it. But now they are thinking of coming up with innovations of how, if you don't even have the capacity or manpower to deploy such, to use such resources, you have a way of, you can be able to create secondary markets. So I would, in my opinion, that we can look back into the previous presentation and see how we can be able to bring in some other ingredient to it that would create more flexibility and encourage the usage of the resources. Thank you very much.
Sorry, one second. Which of the previous presentations are you referring to?
The inter and intra-rail transfer policy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Which market are you talking about, please? Which market are you talking about?
The secondary market. For example, the infra-rail policy, of course, it enables transfer of some of our resources within the registry, okay? Now, if you now say, look, yes, I can see you.
I say Afrinic resources are not for sale. I already say that.
Yes, but
Did you say that?
yes, transfer. not for sale anyway. But what we are saying here is that even if you say you are not selling, there's evidence that have suggested, that have shown that there are black marketers.
No black market because inter-region transfer
Yes.
are completely supervised by Afrinic, so it cannot be black.
But not entirely.
I'm sorry.
Not entirely.
Okay, I'm
Not
sure
entirely.
you can engage one another on that
Yes,
later.
not entirely. Yes.
Next, please.
Hi, my name's Graham
Yeah,
Bennett.
excuse me.
One second.
If you don't mind, can you come out with clear suggestion to the mailing list for us to look at it? Okay, thank you.
Yes, please, left mic.
Hi, Graham Bennicker. I share some of the concerns of the previous presenters, but I think the element for me that comes to the fore is that this policy is about reviewing IP addresses that have already been allocated. Hello? This policy is about reviewing IP addresses that have already been allocated. And if they've already been allocated, then they've been allocated on the basis of an existing policy on IP address allocation. And so if the IP address allocation has been justified under an existing policy, how is the fact that we're reviewing it necessarily going to invalidate the justification under that policy? So simply by reviewing it doesn't create a framework that we can recover those resources. We should be getting to the crux of the issue of why were those resources issued originally for purposes that we didn't agree to. Thank you.
Thank you. Got that.
Owen DeLong, DeLong Consulting, U.S., not South Africa, has been claimed by Mr. Ledoux up there. I will continue to oppose this policy. I won't repeat all of my arguments from the mailing list. You can go back through the mailing list archives to analyze them. I think it is disingenuous to say that my objections are not in line with Afrinic policy or the politics of Afrinic. There are a number of people from the region that have agreed with me in my objections. They're quite substantial and they've been substantiated repeatedly on the list when it's been requested. So I really don't think this policy should move forward. I think that the community has repeatedly said no to this. The authors have made small changes while continuing to ignore the substantive objections of the community, while continuing to ignore that this policy is not needed and not supported by the majority of the community. And they use all kinds of creative language tricks to try and claim that it is invalid for us to object to the policy outright, and that there is some requirement that we move towards consensus, but that simply isn't the reality. This policy has failed to achieve consensus. It is unlikely to achieve consensus, and it is time to move on and abandon it. Thank you.
Center mic.
Good afternoon, everyone. I remain Eukarya from Nigeria. We all know that Afrinic is not a business or a profit-making organization. But whether we agree or not, some of the ISPs are out to make profit. Now, before an ISP will be allocated some resources, they must have passed through the RSA agreement, that is the registration service agreement, which makes them eligible to be assigned any IP addresses, any resources. Now, if they are found wanting or violating the RSA, I think what the Afrinic community is supposed to do is to ask why. At least to know, because as a business person, you are bound to face some challenges. You are bound to face some risk. You are about to take some risk. So now you might plan that the resources you are acquiring is going to take for like 100 persons. Then coming out to the open market, you found out that you're just making use of 80 because of this, the business is not really meeting up to what you want. Now, Afrinic is supposed to give the person, supposed to ask the person, then the person is supposed to suggest, tell the Afrinic, okay, in so time, I will be able to meet up with these resources being assigned to me. And if the person is not able to meet up, and even at the end again, the person might even be able to meet up with more than what he already has. And the person can
You're going there? Wow.
Just, apply for more.
What time is it right now?
I'm looking at this proposal and the RST, just as a first
to help me figure out
said. It's exactly, and on the mailing list, I stated it. That is exactly the same thing with the RSA. So I don't see the need of this policy. It's like we like duplicating things. Let's forget this policy. Thank you.
Okay. Next.
Hi.
Can we try to
okay, speed things up. Okay. Hi, I am Adoga again. I've gone through this policy proposal, and I've also commented a few times in the mailing list discussion. I have just a few issues here. I think since, like the last speaker said, and this speaker here said, since organizations go through the right processes to get these resources, then rather than waiting for underutilization or maybe issues of resources, we should implement a better process of application. By application, I mean before you assign an IP address to someone, before you assign resources to someone, that process needs to be strengthened rather than policing people and in, okay, we assigned so number of IP addresses to you, why are you not making use of it? And we need to take it back. Or as a business, I can request for resources and the purpose of getting those resources might change. We have to put that consideration into our policies if we're developing. Then finally, I think this policy contradicts this whole idea of intra-resource transfer. When I mean intra, like we saw the last presentation, the last proposal, that is something that should be allowed in our region for resource owners to be able to transfer to people, organizations that need it here. So in summary, I would say I strongly oppose this and we shouldn't discuss this any further. Thank you.
Okay, so point of correction there, we will discuss for as long as the authors have the policy proposal on the docket and it does not expire without changes. So the other mic there, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Wada Adinya. I'm from Algeria, computer science student engineering. So my point is, I'm not gonna oppose this proposal or advocate it or support it. So my point is to give a suggestion. I think that this proposal needs to grow a little bit more, and the authors of this proposal need to answer the points raised by the community to push it further. Another point is I'm suggesting to create a local committee from the community that has seats from different regions from Africa and from different sectors in Africa to help Afrinic to do the review. Another point is I think that the process is not clear enough to how Afrinic gonna do the review. So I would like to make more details in the process so the members will be aware of the consequences of such an act. Thank you.
Thank you. Center mic.
Yes, my name is Robert and I'm from Uganda. I think most of the points have been said by the previous speakers.
Please, could you speak into the mic?
Yes, saying most of the things I wanted to say have been said by the speakers, but it is just ambiguous. Some things are not really clear. The process is not detailed and people still raise concerns and they're not addressed. It's like there's a stand from one side that it has to be like this. And I just wish it could be more fully. The process could be, the text, even some text has grammatical issues. So I just feel like it should be reviewed more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please, have you read the policy? Really?
Go ahead.
My name is Peace Nena from Nigeria. She has already said most of the things I wanted to say, but I just want to add a little more thing on the aspect of the RSA and this policy. There's no different. And then I would want to say that if I obtain IP number from Afrinic in a way that I'm supposed to obtain it, I don't see a reason why they would want to. And if they feel I am not using it the way I'm supposed to, they're supposed to come to me and ask, because I have my own personal reasons why it is so. So it's better they come to me than policing around. And to some extent, there's a way that you might have a competitor that might want to bring down your business, for instance, and he would want to go to Afrinic to report you that you are doing a wrong thing. And meanwhile, maybe you're not. And the person is just trying to bring down your business by going to report to Afrinic. So I feel it's another way that they can hurt themselves. I mean, the ISP providers, they can use it to hurt each other. They feel you are progressive more than I do. They might want to go to Afrinic to report you, and meanwhile, they don't know the reason. So I feel this policy is really not relevant.
Okay,
please, just for clarification, can you please give me your point of view according to allocation of resources from Afrinic?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Even I didn't get that.
I want to know your point of view according to allocation of resources from Afrinic.
What do you need? You have to be specific.
If you gain, or if you have...
I strongly don't support the policy. That's...
No. Listen, a clear question was asked to you, your view on the allocation of resources at Afrinic.
I don't understand.
You don't understand, which means you don't know what you're talking about.
I know what I'm saying. That's why I came here.
Guys.
I know what I'm saying.
I do take objection to that because I don't understand the question myself.
Yeah.
Really, you would have to be more specific. If I give you the floor to ask such a question, then it should be in a manner that the person can understand and respond to you.
No, you cannot conduct like that. The question I ask is very simple. What is, how that she, and bon, je vais le dire en français pour que ça soit plus clair.
I wanted to understand, I want to know what how do you understand about the allocation of resources with Afrinic? How do you understand the allocation of resources per Afrinic? S'il y a un processus, if there is a process, does it become for the personal or it's all the time the property for Afrinic?
Okay, we can hold it aside. Next comment. Please go on, sir.
Okay. Mr. Co-Chair, I thought I heard somebody earlier declare consensus or no consensus. I said, I thought I heard in an earlier statement from a member of the audience literally declare no consensus, and I thought the person might have been usurping your powers. So I thought I'll make that.
No, that's not accurate, sir. I heard the person make the comment. I noted it myself, yes. And I did not respond because he said it was his opinion.
Well,
not that there will be consensus or there will be no consensus. He said it was his opinion, so he's entitled to his opinion. Thank you, sir.
Please. What I heard was that the person took a position on consensus or not. And I think that is your role. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution, sir.
Mr. Co-Chair, if I may rebut. Owen DeLong, DeLong Consulting. What I stated was that this community has repeatedly come to no consensus around this policy in the past. Historically, I'm I'm repeating what the co-chairs have said multiple times in multiple meetings on this policy. I'm sorry, but that is what has been said.
Please, this policy goes to last call 2 times.
I disagree because this policy has gone to last call, has got consensus, and went to last call twice. Let's be accurate. We have data.
You have data for that.
But then,
so you cannot say that
you can't say that the coach has said there is no consensus.
Never.
Okay, can we have the next comment, please?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Patrick Kiza from Uganda, a student at Mountains of the Moon University. My view to the motion, I do oppose it, given to the fact that Afrinic, as a body responsible for allocating resources, should, in the first instance, ascertain whether the member will fully utilize the resources it's about to give through all the set criteria and process. And my other view is if Afrinic can't ascertain that this particular member is going to use these specific resources, why assign them to the member? And if it passes that, don't you think it will bring confusion and disputes amongst Afrinic members? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
One more comment. Allow authors to respond before we take the remaining comments. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. My name's Charhanga Joshua from Bugema University, Uganda. Now, I appreciate what he said, that the resources are free for Afrinic members. What we know that whatever policy that is passed on affects it affects every internet user up to the end user. Now, what I want to know is that because when these ISPs are given these resources to assign them out to end users, there are some charges they attach. So, is there any standard for the Afrinic that it uses to know that it has assigned to the ISPs to for example, sorry, is there any standard according for the charges that the ISPs are obliged to obey as they are assigning these resources regarding costs? Because as we know that the ISPs aim at getting money. This help if there are any standards, then this helps to block the black markets because the users will be able to understand. So I just want a clarification about that. Thank you.
Who are you requesting a clarification from?
From you.
Okay, anyway, authors, you can respond.
I should go?
Yeah, I want to go. Bien. Je vous remercie pour toutes les interventions et nous allons essayer d'apporter.
Thank you for all these interventions. We are trying also to give our opinion, and it will be very convenient to you. So we will try now to put together all these questions in one answer, so we are not going to remain on the same issue. Many people they were talking about RSA who are concerned about this issue. Now, if these people, if they have learned, read about this proposal, even ourselves, we are talking, and it is very clear in this policy. It is just because people are ignoring the statement saying that, okay, we have chosen, we have decided to write this proposal because we found some weakness in this statement. That's why we have now gave this proposal, so now we can now strengthen this statement. But some people now are just talking about and they are just talking about the weakness of the process. These people, they haven't yet read this proposal, because if they have read, they will be able to tell us clearly the place, a paragraph which is not clear for them. So in this way, we can now help them to understand. If you say the process is not clear, without giving now explanation where you don't understand, it will be difficult to guess where now you have issue of understanding in this proposal. Many, they were talking about the market, left, right. I want to ask to the staff if there is a market in the region of Afrique.
There is no such a thing as a market in the African service region. If that's what your question was, there is no such thing as a market. Thank you.
Merci. Donc, ça ne vient pas de moi.
It is not coming from me. So there is no market in the region of Afrique. So it is very clear. I want that everybody now put in his mind there is no a market. There is no such market in the in our region. So maybe you should now reserve this issue for next time. But I didn't understand clearly the intervention of the person. But I think he was talking about if we keep maintaining EPv4, so we are not going to move forward in EPv6, if I can remember. So many slides is showing that, okay, we have some weakness in the use of IPv6. So these problems are not connected. So I think I have understood and respond to the concern of that person. So I'm going to ask my colleague Marcus to add more explanation.
I think you've answered most of the questions, but what I've noticed is those who were opposing, during the presentation or submission, they will support, improve, and then suddenly, okay, those who were doing their submissions, at the beginning, you hear them saying, let's improve, let's strengthen, and then suddenly they say, I oppose. That's a totally contradiction. Do you really want to improve or you want to oppose? That's the first point. Most of the questions asked shows that those who asked those questions did not read the RSA and then the proposal as well. They don't know what they are talking about. If you don't mind, I can engage you. We'll pull out the RSA and then the policy for us to discuss together. I will disgrace you, but I don't think I'll go there. Caution. So please,
caution.
Please, let's be constructive than I oppose. I'll be consistent with what you are saying so that we progress in this community. Thank you.
Okay. Je voudrais aussi
like also to clarify, to to attract your attention about this, there is a process. If the same person will continue repeating the same thing until the end, you will believe what he's saying. But the history can confirm that this policy twice went to the school. So I don't want us to be influenced in one way or another way.
Floor. Sorry, can I take remote comments, please?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is from Saul Stein. This proposal has been going on for a number of years and has still not reached consensus. All concerns are covered in the RSA. The RSA has the means to recover unused resources as if they are unused. The justification was incorrect. The process for review is not clear, and again, it's already been reviewed at the time of allocation. Despite claims of change, the policy hasn't really changed. I therefore object to this policy. That's the first one. This is from Andrew Alston. I would like to understand how Marcus is prepared to stand here and state a policy that is meant to be for the benefit of the community, where it has now been categorically proven on the email lists for all to see that he is Benjamin and was making spurious and defamatory allegations, indirect contravention of the code of conduct. And my name is Andrew Alston. Yeah. It's part of the comments. I thought it was part.
Okay, so back to the floor, please.
Yeah. Hello. Okay. This is Elena. A couple of points. I think the discussion on how the allocation process goes is very important, because some of the comment here seem to show like people saying, "Oh, okay, so I request numbers. Okay, then with justifications, the numbers get allocated to me. So why is Afrinic looking to review?" But if you clearly read the policy, the policy, you read the RSA, the right Afrinic reserve the right to review anytime the allocation. So those who sign the RSA know what they are already bound to. So I think it's also important that people know how the process works to avoid commenting on like that. The other thing I want to mention is that people keep saying that they are unaddressed objection, etc. So I want to point out that addressing an objections does not mean that we necessarily accommodate. I think this needs to be clarified. For example, let's say I stood here say I oppose, and I think you should address before we move on. No, we can address, but does not mean that we will go the way you want us to go. So I think we need to clarify. Addressing the issue does not mean we accommodate necessary or the way you want it to be addressed. Then my last point is, I'm glad it was clear on the list, and I also here in this room, it's like we had a split in this community. Okay, we have a split. Okay, a group in favor of this, a group against. But normally, if you are following the rough consensus process, when you have a split like this, the good things to do is, for example, for this presentation, we have liked the co-chair to show on the screen what are the issues, because you have a split. So why are you saying that these people win and not these people? So let's put the pending issue so that we can see how we can accommodate. Then everybody agree, then we go on. Otherwise, it will be difficult to say these people are wrong or these people are wrong. So this is how I think we should do. This is the way I think we should do.
Thank you for your contribution. Center Mike.
Pascal here again. I have been following this proposal for a while now, I think 2 years now. And So, Marcos, please. I think the right statement you should have said to probably the young ones here is that they can probably meet you later for training, for proper training, not that you will, I mean, there is respect in Africa. You're an elderly man. I respect you. You're like a father to me, actually. And you know, in Africa, we always value respect. I mean, so I think you should mentor us, me inclusive, rather than say, yeah, definitely, you have been in the game for a long time. You will definitely train me better, but I think it's disrespectful when you say that to the whole community. And the last thing I'm just going to say is some of the people here, including the authors of this proposal, during the abuse contact policy, you actually said it is in the RSA. Why the double standards now? Because it's in the RSA. I am clearly just concerned with any proposal. I mean, I talked about the abuse contact policy. I am concerned with any proposal that involves maybe placing a ban on resource holders or preventing the spread of the internet to the ends of Africa. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Microphone queue is now closed. Please go ahead.
Jordi Palet. A clarification first, because somebody mentioned the wording black market, and I guess I mentioned this morning in my presentation. Of course, nobody will recognize officially that there is a black market, but there is, and it has been in every registry. There is people selling resources besides the process. Okay, so that's just a short clarification.
Merci.
Now,
Merci, Monsieur Jordi. Ce qui justement.
Mr. That confirm the necessity of this policy. If you say that the market is not there and you confirm that the market, the black market is there, so I can see the importance of clarifying this issue.
So, if we restart it, and what I am meaning with restarting it, resetting it, I explained this in several emails, and again an email I think 2 days ago, where I said, look, this policy proposal has two parts. One part is resource recovery. I think it's good, even if there is some text in the bylaws, the RSA, and so on, that says that bad usage or non-compliance with policies may bring, if this is a repeated action by a member, to recovery of resources. That will be one policy proposal. I will say the first thing to do is to split this policy proposal in two parts. The other part is the one that I mostly disagree right now with the existing text, which is the review. I still believe that in the RSA, there is sufficient text that allows AFRINIC to do the review. I will agree with a text that makes this review as an automated process. For example, which resources that should be announced are not actually being routed. This can be automated. And of course, I will also agree, but this is possible today, that any member that is suspecting that another member is misusing the resources or, for example, reselling them, it's communicated to the staff so they can take a decision by their own if they need to do a bigger audit, but not stating all the details of the process in the policy right with the text that we have right now. So again, please restart, split into different parts. I think it will be much easier to reach consensus in each part. And the last thing I want to say is, I asked it several times, can you explain what do you think is missing in the RSA? Just plain email, just tell us, why do you think we need a policy proposal? Maybe there is a reason for that, but I have read many times the bylaws, the RSA, the policy proposal, many times, believe me, and I still don't see the need for all the text that you have in the policy proposal. Sometimes we need more text to explain better the things. I agree with that. But I think most of the things that you are asking in the policy proposal now are not needed. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you once again. Well, I was trying to actually challenge him the issue of the black market he mentioned, but Mr. Jody has already
Okay, so the next point.
highlighted. Yeah, but my fundamental question now is, for every problem, statement of problem you are solving, you must have a clear-cut goal. Now, the goal the goal of this proposal, is it to police, or do we want to find a way of improving the usage of our resources? So I need to be clear about these two things. Is it, we want to just police, or we want to improve on the utilization? Now, if we want to improve on the utilization, in my opinion, okay, I'm thinking, okay, in my opinion, that let's fall back, okay, to both intra and inter transfer policies and see what are the things we need to add on those proposals that will enhance the efficient usage of these policies, resources. To me, I don't really have a clear cut of what is the clear objective of this policy. Is it going to police, or you want to improve the utilization? Thank you very much.
Okay, so you have a question. He would attend to that.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you, Co-Chair. My name is Camille from Togo and AFNAM. I think I can bring some help to Jordi. Look like the real issue here is if there is a provision for a review in the RSA, is there again a need to try to do something in the policy manual? So since Jodie has invoked other RIR this morning, I tried to check what is done in ARIN, and I'm going to read section 12.5 of the policy manual in ARIN, okay? If the organization does not voluntarily return resources as requested, ARIN may revoke any resources issued by ARIN as required to bring the organization into overall compliance. ARIN shall follow the same guideline for revocation that are required for voluntary return in the previous paragraph. That is just a portion of a whole item. The whole 12th section is about resource review. So I think we have in the room our guests from ARIN. Maybe they can help us to explain, do they have a provision in RSA and they have still put that kind of mechanism in policy manual? So, Co-Chair.
Thank you for that. We actually do have it in mind to take feedback from the other RIRs once we're done with this round of comments.
Well, I think I'm concerned about Jodie, so maybe we need to do it right now.
Jodie does not speak for all the other RIRs.
Just a clarification. I just said 5 minutes ago, and I said in several emails, and I think it was 2 days ago, that I will agree with a policy for resource recovery. But that's half of this policy.
No, the ARIN test is talking about resource review, not recovery. So since you are arguing that there's already provision in RSA, so no need to put that in policy manual?
Again, the RSA from 18, from right, from here is not the same.
So that's why I'm asking.
18 needed that, but maybe in this region is not needed. So that's why I have asked repeatedly, tell me why this is needed.
Yes, and I'm turning the question.
Okay.
Let's ask.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Okay.
Yeah, ARIN, right?
I'm actually the author of the original proposal in ARIN that brought about Section 12. So speaking only for myself and not officially representing ARIN here, I will say that when I wrote that, it was about putting limits on ARIN's abilities and authority to conduct such reviews. The RSA in ARIN was much more far-reaching and much more overreaching in its blanket authorities than the RSA in AFRINIC as it exists. And Section 12 is not about giving ARIN the ability to conduct those reviews. It was about limiting their ability to conduct those reviews in a manner that was detrimental to the community at the time.
So why did you amend the RSA then?
Well, ARIN later amended the RSA under board control. In the ARIN world, the RSA is not under the PDP control. So we have no control over how it got amended.
Here also.
Okay, well, so we amended policy because we had control of that. as a
So,
community.
so shall we suggest Aaron to remove that provision in the policy manual?
You're certainly free to propose that in the Aaron region as a policy proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll take your comment. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Luca from Nigeria. My own contribution is more or less, I will suggest what I feel is a fast solution to some of the reviews, especially in the area of non-compliance. Underutilization of resources constitutes non-compliance. And if we look at it from the economic aspect of it, we have what they call business cycle. Business cycle simply means ups and downs in business. You have a boom, you have recession, you have depression. All those cycles happen in the real life. And if just because at some point in time I'm utilizing 100% and then the utilization dropped, doesn't necessarily mean that my resources should be revoked. Rather, we should try and encourage businesses, especially the small and medium scale businesses that are coming up. If you revoke the resources, it is simply pointing them towards the black market. You understand? So these are certain things that we really need to consider. So I will not say that entirely it should be thrown into the dustbin, but we should rather look at policies that will be able to help not just the giants in the business, but even those that are coming up. Because as far as I'm concerned, we are in an era of SMEs, and then SMEs need to grow if the country or the continent as a whole has to grow. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. The two remote comments that you have, we'll take those. Anna wants to respond to some of the previous comments. Remote, please.
So this is from Sylvain Bayer from CMNOG. I think this policy is needed and the RSA must also be amended. That's the first one. The second one is from Jacob Kinyua. Can we ask those opposing to be very clear in pointing what exactly they disagree with and clearly state the possible solutions? I feel like this will keep going round in circles.
Okay, thank you. Anna.
My name is, can I go on, please?
Merci.
He has the floor.
Merci. Donc, je voudrais revenir encore sur ceux qui...
I want to come back about those who are talking about this section of RSC. Somebody said that, okay, he didn't understand what was the goal. If we could take the pen to read, he could find the answer in his concern and question. It is clearly stated the goal is not now to eliminate the resources, but if you see what is in black and white, so the recovering of resources, only that will be the last solution. Time is given to members to be in conformity with also with the help of the personnel, so they can now to be conformed to the recovery of the resources. If they took the pen to read, we are not the one who invented it. It is in the text. The person were against, everybody signed them, and nobody contested. It is in the text. By that time, they were signing. So Afrinic has the authority to recover if the member is not in conformity. We are just now putting in place the process. So I'm asking to the member, the personnel of Afrinic, to tell us how many years Afrinic is in existence. The second question, how many times they have they made a revision of membership in will. How many people have been also audited? How many resources have been recovered? Thank you. So please let the staff help us to understand before I can continue.
I do not have the translator on me, so I'll answer based on what I picked. So, yes, how many reviews have been there? Usually reviews are done when we are evaluating requests for additional resources. That's when we do reviews. Okay, perhaps I'll check with Madvi. Have we had any reviews that we have conducted outside of the normal process for doing subsequent requests? If yes, how many?
Madvi from Member Services. Most of the reviews are done when the members come for additional resources. If I'm not mistaken, there was a review that was triggered for one member earlier this year or late in 2018, and AFRINIC staff had to review that. So they are not outside the scope of the additional resource request. There are no particular reviews that have been done.
Merci, Madvi.
Thank you very much. As you can see, AFRINIC is there for more than 15 years. In 15 years, there were only one audit started by AFRINIC outside the process of the acquisition of new resources. And you who are against, you are saying, so RSA should take it also in account. Why is it that, okay, why now since 15 years? That issue was just done once. Resources are public, shared among us, among the community, and you think it is not normal to do revision to be sure that members who receive resources so they can do it in good and conformity with the manual, with the rules. Let us be serious with ourselves. So we have also we have to be conscious with the public resources. And it is well stated that this policy is very important, and I want to repeat myself that we know now that there is a black market in Africa for the resources. There is a black market, so it is very important.
So we are all aware we're about 40 minutes behind. All the time we saved has been lost. I'll give 1 minute each, strictly.
I have something to say.
My name is Yamta.
A moment.
One moment, he has a comment.
Somebody came right now, said, I'm disrespectful. In my statement, I said they should go back and read. It was clear that most of the questions they asked, answers were in the proposal. Second, you could see that suggestions were coming, and then suddenly I oppose. I see that mischievous. But when I react, they tell me I'm disrespectful. Honestly, I'm offended. I need a due apology from the person. I need due apology from the person.
Okay, noted. Back to the policy discussion.
Can I go on, please?
Yes, please.
Okay, my name is Yamta. I work at Federal University, Dutse in Nigeria. My first comment is based on systems thinking, and I fail to see a model that will help in sustainable development in Africa. seeing all the proposals presented here today is to punish and revoke resources. That's first. For the second one, I believe ICT is a tool for development in Africa, and looking at the nooks and crannies where we want technology to get there to help the local farmers and local communities. If we focus on infrastructure critical projects, it will be harder to deploy and therefore take much more time. So if you say 12 months to review, or after 12 months you're revoking anything, I think the time is too short. If the same policies will apply for education and research institution and critical infrastructure organizations.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next, please. My name is Grégoire Eoumi from Benin. So I would like to comment something about the end user. I heard that someone said that this policy may affect the end users. I don't think so. Because if one ISP is giving a bad resources to the end user, it is in own responsibility to go back and complain to the policy. So the argument that, oh, this policy, if we adopt the policy, it will affect Africa region, I don't think so. And I'm also coming from ARIN, I'm ARIN member as well, and I think that ARIN have also this kind of the mechanism to recover the resources. So I don't think that Africa will be behind if you adopt this kind of policy. And finally, I will say that we are playing a lot with our resources, and we should be aware and know about what we are talking about before I go to the mic and say, I oppose. This policy is now at 8th version and go to last call for 2 times. So we should be responsible for our future and make the decision that will affect us and will affect our future. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Taiwo. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Taiwo from. I'm quite tall. Sorry.
The microphone queue was closed several minutes ago.
Hello. Hello. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I am Taiwo from Nigeria. Over the years, there have been points raised about this policy. I've raised some myself, but I'm not here today to support or oppose. Well, what I just want to say about that is, if those points raised were actually addressed, there will be no points here today, because everything said today was a repeated point. So why those points are still valid is because those points have not been addressed yet. On another note, I would like to give an analogy. If a child, a small baby, is going to fire and the child is going to play with the fire, and you say, this fire is going to burn you, and the baby goes back there again, you can leave the baby, let him touch the fire one day, then when he feels it, he won't go back there anymore. What I'm saying is, the community seems to not be ready for this policy because they always oppose it. Every time it comes up, they're opposing it.
Okay,
so why don't we give a break and let the problem statement that this policy is actually trying to point out, let it actually come to play. Let the society be matured enough and see that this is actually a problem. Then your solution will come and plead for your solution.
Noted.
Thank you.
Next, please.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mana Aidara. I'm from Senegal, and I work for the regulator body, but French speaking. En fait, je suis un peu choquée quand j'entends.
Really surprised when the audit has been done since the beginning only once, because when you are managing public resources, you have also to control and see that these resources have been managed properly. I want just to talk about the experience. We are managing resources like you, and the person who are managing must also send a inform and explain how they use, and also they have also to he should talk about the projection of the use of so through from this way now we can now give resources and do some planification when the resources are not used, so we can now take back because we have also other people who can use. So I'm very surprised to know that, okay, there is resources in the black market. I have never heard in any organization like this one that you can take resources and use them and maybe also put them in the black market. I'm really very, very, very surprised. So we should have some approbation, so some audit.
Christy from Nigeria. I just have one question to ask, but before I ask my question, I want to implore us in this meeting that we should make it a bit welcoming for everybody. Don't let us make it a kind of intimidating people, because even in Nigerian law, it says that everybody has freedom of speech. So my question, I just have one question to ask, and I don't need I don't need anybody to ask me question for this question. I just need a simple answer for it. My question is,
but we can ask you clarifications.
Does AFRINIC put the end user in consideration while making policies? Because in policies, that should be effects, either positive or negative. So does AFRINIC put in consideration the end user, whether it affects them positively or negatively? I want to know. Thank you.
Maybe I'll just take that. Because AFRINIC as the company does not make the policies. It is the community that makes the policies, and anybody who is willing to participate is welcome. So the policies wouldn't be made behind you as long as you're participating in the RPD discussions. Last comment before I make a call for any of our friends from the other RIRs that are willing to share their experience. But go ahead, please.
I think he was ahead of me.
No, that queue is closed.
Okay. Owen DeLong Consulting. I want to address Mr. Aina's comments about consensus, because the status quo already achieved consensus long ago. And so there's no need for new consensus to preserve the status quo. You are asking us to change policy, and that requires a new strong consensus among this community. The change is what requires consensus, and it doesn't, in my estimation, have it. The previous declarations of consensus, one of them was ruled out of order by the appeals committee, and the other one was retracted by the co-chairs during the last call period, and the last call never concluded. So I think that the claims that this policy has achieved consensus twice before are specious and questionable at best, but they've been overruled or retracted, and this policy has not successfully achieved consensus in the community thus far. If it had, we wouldn't still be talking about it. Thank you.
Okay, Owen, it's not welcome for you to preempt what the co-chairs would be saying.
I'm not attempting to preempt what the co-chairs would be saying.
It looks like it.
I'm
because
attempting to
now I can't
describe
make my call.
Oh, please do make whatever call you wish. I'm not trying to preempt the call from this discussion. I'm trying to clarify my statement about history.
Okay, you're clarifying your statement. Okay. Anyway, microphone queues closed. We're way behind on time. Sorry about that. We can continue this discussion online. I see that we will keep going back and forth on this. The declaration is that there is no rough consensus to proceed to last call. The proposal is sent back to the mailing list for further discussion and whatever happens from there. Madvi, you have a comment?
Okay, Madvi from Member Services. We've heard that quite a lot of discussions regarding the contents of the registration services agreement, and would assisted review, okay, where AFRINIC staff work together with its members to ensure that their contact information, for example, are accurate, complete, up to date. And for example, there are some members who have resources in ripe no off, for example, so work with them, assist them in becoming, in adopting its services. If you detect any issues regarding policy compliance, we do have no reverse unless assigned. Non-compliance already identified for some lame delegations, policy non-compliance already. So there are some issues that we note, and we are planning, in fact, to bring it to the members on their member portal in the future. But would a review conducted by staff to work with the members, especially in regard to the accuracy, completeness, okay, and comprehensiveness of the information in our registry. Would that be something that you would like staff to entertain?
Okay, so I think it'll be helpful to take these questions back to the mailing list so that we can see contributions from there, from that angle. Thank you very much. Yes, if you do have final comments, yes, please.
Okay, thank you. We are open for suggestions. I'll invite honest and sincere contribution so that we prove upon this policy. It is totally unbelievable that we are in a community where we can't audit or review what we are doing. And this policy, as you said, is to complement the RSA. So please, nobody should think that they are taking the resources away from him. Even if at that time you were not compliant, they take it away, there will be enough resources. You can go back when the need is there. So we are not stopping anybody through this policy to go out of business or to punish any end user. Thank you.
Oui, je voudrais ajouter juste quelques mots.
Just to add some word, so I thank him, but I have the impression that, okay, he made himself influenced, and this is not the first time now this is happening. I'm really weighing his word. He let himself to be influenced. I'm not going to show how to make his work, but if he think that policy is useful for the community, so it is up to him to think. So he should present the issue which must be tackled, the problem which was solved, and those one to be resolved. If we don't do that, you'll be taking imaginary decision under influence. No process, scientific process. You take one decision with emotion. I'm sorry really to tell you this.
Yeah, this is not about contributing to the policy discussion or not, but I just want to say something about this specific policy. For 3 years now, it's coming back and going on. Then I think something needs to be done. Yeah, something needs to be done differently, probably, to find a way out here. Listening to the discussion, I just have one question, probably that was not asked, which may need attention of this community. Are we still believing in the need-based usage of these resources or not? I think that's the fundamental question related to this policy, I believe. And answering that question could probably help, the different people view to coalesce to that, because if we go from that principle of the area, which is to manage scarce resources and allocate them on the need basis, there is a lot of things that comes from there. And some of the argument today contradict that, and some support that. We need to find an answer to that. This is for the community, not for the co-chair. It's we as community needs to decide if Afrinic should go by the need-based management of those resources. That is fundamental. Secondly, from the policy point of view, there is a need to do something different. This has been going on for 3 years. It's coming, going. It's the central point of the policy discussion. We probably need to see what can be done differently to bring to work on some kind of consensus. Thanks.
Thank you, Adia.
Okay, so there was a request earlier for our colleagues from the other RIRs to perhaps within a minute or two share whether at each of their RIRs there is a process or review to audit either randomly or through a whistleblower or any other means. And yeah, share with us whether there's a process for that and what the mechanism is. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Paul Wilson from APNIC. Pleasure to be here. It's a fantastic room full of people. At APNIC, we deal with this set of issues slightly differently, but what we do represents I think, what I'd call a very clear concern that that resources are always used consistently with policies. So, in the first place, the membership agreement that every member signs requires them to comply with policies at all times in the use of resources that they receive from APNIC. And that's a requirement of the membership agreement. And if they breach that requirement, then the membership agreement can be cancelled, and that automatically implies and results in withdrawal of the resources. So, I mean, that's one part of it. You have policies required by the membership agreement. If they're breached, the membership agreement is cancelled and the resources are recovered. Now, that doesn't happen arbitrarily, because there's also a very clear process spelt out where if there is a suggestion of a breach, then of course there's a notice to the member, there's the ability of the member to remedy the breach, and there's also escalation to dispute resolution and that kind of thing. But that process has resulted in quite a number of cases in cancellation of membership and recovery of resources where resources were clearly allocated on false pretenses, by false declarations from the members, which resulted in the allocations being made to them. In some cases where members had actually transferred their resources to other parties, that's also regarded as a breach of the policy, because APNIC expects that the resources continue to be used by the member consistently with the way that they declared in the first place. So that's one part. The other part, I guess, is about the reporting, and that's really that's a different thing for us. I mean, if APNIC staff receive information or some allegation of anything in relation to our services or our policies, and those staff are able to investigate that. They're able to make a judgment call on whether the allegation really deserves to be investigated. And if they do believe that it does, then they can make that investigation if they like. So it's a staff call as to whether or not the policies continue to be complied with in the first instance. But of course, if the staff action was actually to result in a proposal to cancel the membership, then of course that, like I said, would go into a notice and appeal that gives the chance for that case to effectively be escalated to the APNIC board level. We also have another mechanism for any of our members to contact the APNIC board, the EC, directly on any matter they like. So there may potentially be a report, if you like, of the type that you're talking about here that would come to APNIC via the APNIC board. But I'd suggest that, although as far as I know that hasn't happened, that would be referred in the first place to staff for investigation of a complaint that was regarded as being worth pursuing. So I hope that's helpful. It sort of shows that we're trying to achieve, I think, the same thing that you're trying to achieve here. We've done it through the membership agreement primarily, But in any case, what we do really does emphasize and demonstrate that the APNet community is very concerned that resources continue to be used as they have been declared to be as per the intent and as per the policies as well. Hope that helps. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Paul. I can't hear you.
Hello, I'm Alejandro Guzman from the LACNIC board. So basically, I think at LACNIC we have something very similar to APNIC. Basically, the member service agreement allows for a review of the use of the resources in a specific moment, especially when they are requesting more resources or when there is a suspicion of bad use. There is the right to do it. There is no an audit process that is like obligatory or to conduct for every member. We don't have something like that at this moment. So far has not been necessary. And basically also have mechanism. We have been working in transparency for a long time now in the board of directors. Basically, there are many mechanisms in which members or people from the community can communicate with different parts. There is a transparency board. There is the board of directors directly, and basically they can contact all of these bodies and report when they see something is not being done properly, both in resource uses or any other thing that is not working well in the community or with the organization. So basically that's that we have now. Now talking not as a LACNIC board member, but in my own capacity, something that is important to have in mind is there is a bigger picture that needs to be considered in terms of all that has to be with the resources and with transfers and things like that. Is the principles that were defined for resource allocation decades ago, the reality is very different now. Basically, things have changed a lot, and the growth of internet has surpassed. That's why we have IPv6, but still we need IPv4. And companies continue growing, and especially when we are in the planning phases, the resources that can be achieved through the policies are scarce or less or not enough for organizations to continue growing. So those organizations are going to try to find a way to get those resources. So basically, anything that is done in the policy to restrict those is not going to work, because it's going to just create a bigger black market. So it's important to have in mind that policies won't prevent that, because the need-based things is going to make people do things even in the wrong way, if we can call that that way. So it's important to see the bigger picture. And especially, let's remember that the only part of the resources that is available today to convert them to better use are the legacy resources that were discussed this morning in the RIR transfer policy. And basically, just to call this community to think, LACNIC rejected a policy like that for like 3 years, but with now not the believing, because I heard that somebody said that believe in, with the fact that the regions that implemented RIR intertransfer policy are getting those resources and not losing that much, that actually is a benefit for the region. LACNIC approved that, they changed the mind and approved that kind of policy in the last policy forum in May. And basically, that is just because there are a lot of legacy resources still there that nobody's using. That there are some companies that received the resources 30 years ago, 25 years ago, and they don't even know that they have it. And there are people that are fighting them, telling them that they have resources that they received in that time and that can be useful for the community, and try to find a way to make it available for everybody. And that is not